Thank you everyone for joining us. We are technically already in open session since we have come out of closed session. So I'm going to ask everyone to rise for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda, we have a recognition of visitors. Allison, do we have anyone? No. Okay, so we'll move to presentations to the board. First up, we have a report from Student Council.
Hello, I'm Emma Hawkinson, and I'm a junior at Galesburg High School. I'm here to report on behalf of the Student Council and let you guys know kind of what we've been up to. Before break, we had Angel Tree shopping, so we sent members of the Student Council out to purchase gifts for children, and we were able to purchase gifts for 50 foster kids, which was more than last year, so that's really cool. We decorated the high school for the holidays, and then we went on break, but when we came back just last Friday, so right away, we hosted a blood drive through Red Cross at the high school from 1 to 7. We had 30 people come and attempt to donate blood, and 25 pints were donated, which was a big increase from last year's blood drive in May. We do plan, Red Cross actually has told us that they are willing to give a $250 scholarship for every 30 pints of blood donated, so we plan on having a couple more blood drives. So we have set a goal for 60 pints of blood, so we can get 2 of those scholarships for seniors and student council. And then currently we're preparing for Swirl, which is February 9th, and the theme is Greek Gala. And then starting the next couple weeks, we have a canned food drive that we're going to be donating canned food to Fish Food Pantry. Thank you.
Any questions for Student Council?
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thanks. Next, we have recognition of our GHS All-State musicians.
Good evening. Every fall, we have our all-district auditions, and from that process, after our all-district festivals have occurred, we find out our all-state musicians, truly the best of the best, and band, jazz choirs, and orchestras. I'm going to turn it over now to the teachers and the students and the parents who have made this possible, Mr. Andy Empey and Mr. Cyrus White, and they'll do the introductions of our students.
All right, I would like to start off by recognizing the students in the All-State Chorus. This year we have Janice Abel, Tyler Winfrey, yes, you can stand, please stand. Tyler Winfrey and Vanessa Triplett. Stay standing until we get through everybody. For the honors ensemble, we have Cole Petrie, Caitlin Smith, Samira Boleen, and Jordan Remis. I'm missing Tyler. I'm also missing Ms. Cameron Sneddon. She is part of the vocal jazz ensemble this year.
Three instrumental all-state musicians this year, and please stand when I call your name. We had Lucas Schroyer. This will be his second year making the all-state band. He's the first year clarinetist in the band this year, played baritone in marching band. We
And thank you. Also, we have certificates for all of you for that. So, thank you.
certificate. And his father said it was 3 years, too, right?
Yeah, we'll just start.
Yeah, 3 years. Oh, high school.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, up next, we have a presentation about the Fearless Girls program.
Good evening. My name is Tina Imes. I'm the Dean of Students at Galesburg High School. In my short time at Galesburg High School, I recognized that our girls needed a forum that would allow them to share their thoughts, feelings, and struggles. When I heard about the Fearlessly Girl organization and their rally, I knew exactly what we needed. Fearlessly Girl is an internationally recognized anti-bullying organization, and their mission is to create a kinder girl world. On November 16th, we attended the Fearlessly Girl rally, which was held in Bettendorf, Iowa. The rally focused on boosting self-esteem and addressing bullying among our young women. Our guest speakers were professional tennis player Madison Keys, pictured on the left. In the middle, we have renowned Paralympic athlete Amy Purdy, and on the right, we have makeup artist and self-esteem educator Dre Brown. 85 of our students attended with the help of our chaperones. We had Brandy Baker, our streets mom, Keisha Boyd, runs our 21st Century program, Sarah Wills, our new counselor at the high school, Coletta Parks, our parent, and myself. Without their help, our trip would not have been the success it was. I need to mention, we also had Mandy Peterson from the Solutions program. She also brought a group of students from Lombard and Churchill. One special part of the rally was where students wrote down their fears, and they were able to share those fears on stage with the audience, which I felt was powerful. They then tore apart their cards and threw them in the air, in essence, releasing themselves from those fears. The rally was such a positive experience that moving forward, we will continue working with the Fearlessly Girl organization to start a Fearlessly Girl Club at Galesburg High School. Based on my initial meeting with the girls, they are excited to get started. To close, I have Macy Bryan with me today. She will share her experiences with you.
Hello everyone, I am Macy Bryan, a senior at Galesburg High School. Going into this school year as a new student, I did not know many people, including girls. The one friend I knew at Galesburg High School was my best guy friend. Growing up, I was always the girl with more guy friends than girls, due to so much girl-on-girl bullying. Mrs. Imes invited me to go to the Fearlessly Girl rally. At first I was a little skeptical because I've never had a good experience with girls. After some thought, I decided to go and help represent for no bullying. Including that, I was selected to be a student leader, my experience, just on the bus ride there, we had already had so many connections with all the girls and had a blast just on the bus ride there. And our activities included writing down a pledge to ourselves and ripping up our fears and dance battles and much more. My favorite activities were ripping our fears up that controlled us. Looking around and watching all the girls smile was so worth it. And my favorite speaker was Dre Brown, and she was a campaign, part of the campaign for Dove. And she had us make a pledge, and I was selected to share my pledge on stage, which was, I pledge to love myself and help other girls love themselves. That is sitting on my mirror, so I look at it every morning to remind me what I went through. Overall, the experience, I'm so glad I went. It's helped me with my confidence a lot, and I now have a lot more friends. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How many students attended?
We had 85 students attend.
You said that, I'm sorry.
And just a compliment for the proactiveness of this is great.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any questions or comments about the consent agenda? Allison?
Glastovich?
Yes.
Lyon?
Yes?
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherpy?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Okay, moving into focus area number 1, relevant skills that lead to employability. First up is the administrative report on curriculum. Ms. Springer.
Good evening. We are working tirelessly on those public speaking and writing rubrics. We're getting down to some of the final touches. I met with the K-6 group tonight on public speaking, and we were able to kind of determine the final pieces before we go in front of the staff to kind of get more feedback before we put it, in that black and white so that people can start utilizing that, and we'll bring it to you hopefully in March, if not before in February. Writing rubric will be the same way. We are getting close on some of that work. We had a great instructional coaching opportunity. We had a 3-day presentation over at Knox College. It went very well. As you can see, we had over 40 trainees, and I had approximately another 10 other districts joining us for that event, which we were excited to see. We'll have another 10 people from East Peoria to join us in February for the 2 days of training there. The feedback on the trainer was very positive. She could really read a room, and I didn't get a single note of negativity or anybody that thought something could be changed. They were really pleased and actually asked if they could add more people on that haven't been registered for the February session, so that was really good. And all of the principals and assistant principals were able to come over to the training for at least a day. Some were able to make it longer, but all of our administrative staff was well represented. And the instructional coaching group was actually very complimentary of that, knowing that it's a district-wide initiative, so it was exciting. We have a district improvement team meeting on December 4th. We had our last one on the 18th. I thought it was really positive. We got a lot of really positive feedback, just being able to know what's going on in the school district and trying to elicit some feedback from community members, so that was really good as well. We're going to be working on developing a gifted and talented committee. As I mentioned before, that's going out this month to start in February. So as the writing rubric and public speaking rubrics wind down, this will start up along with the RTI MTSS team. I'm working with Dr. Mashad and the special ed coordinators on this. We have some recruiting events coming up, and I'm working with Miss Ritchie on the course offering catalog for Galesburg High School and the math audit. Any questions? Thank you.
I actually had one quick question. Is there any way that we can see like an outline of the training that was done at the coaching?
Absolutely.
Okay, that would be great. I'm interested in knowing what was talked about.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Okay, next we have the special education report. Dr. Mashad.
Special ed right now is very busy with state mandated reports. We're working with the district office on the excess costs, as well as our quarterly reporting on our expenditures. Also, as reported, we're working on the multi-tiered system RTI response to intervention process with the curriculum department. Also started our projections for next year, looking at what students we will have or not have, and what the staffing needs of special education will be, so.
Any questions regarding the special ed report? Thank you. Next up are the building reports. Are there any questions or comments for administrators regarding their building reports that were in the packet this month? Okay. I have a few, but I'm going to email. Next, focus area 2, facilities and assistance skill acquisition, like public speaking. First up.
Send her the
Right. Building study committees, Dr. Asplin.
Thank you. And Allison, can you pull up the documents? Okay, so it's a little hard to see there from the TV, but the board members, you have a handout there. Please know that these are just ideas for names with board members on there, so we're not just saying you have to go, but we wanted to put some on there and explain our thought process. And then if you are interested in being on other committees or not on that committee, please let me know. But I want to go through these a little bit here. So in trying to break out what work needs to get done and trying to do this in a rational way, the committees that we are recommending to you are what you see before you. So we have a K-4 special scheduling committee that will impact all of the future 3 buildings. So we're trying to get equalized membership on there and try to make sure we hear from a lot of different groups. So we have put a chairperson of John Bradburn on there. The members of that committee you can see before you. We did nominate Jean Ann for that committee. Our logic being we wanted somebody from the curriculum committee on there because we felt that definitely needed that standpoint. We can have up to 2 board members on there, so if somebody else really wants to be on that committee, please let us know and we'll make sure that you get a direct invite, but I'll get you dates for all the meetings. Steel King Facilities Committee, and I'm going to go back for some deadlines here in a little bit. You see you have Jenny Graves. The reason we've put Steel and King together is because a lot of the issues in one will bleed over to the other. We wanted to make sure that we're looking at those buildings somewhat equally. We have Rod Sherpy on there, but if you don't want to be on it, Rod, you definitely let me know. And then if other people want to be on, please let me know. And then food service, we just have the people that were named there, Pam Weber, head cooks, and Jen. 5-6 curriculum and scheduling committee, we have Tiffany as the chairperson of that committee. And we have Amy Pickerel on that because, once again, it's a curriculum area. We wanted a curriculum committee person on there. 5-6 facilities, we put Vicki on there, and that was based on some feedback that we've gotten from Vicki about making sure that there some things were figured out at Lombard. So that was the method to our decision making there. 7-12 curriculum scheduling committee. We know a lot of this has to do with what's going to be negotiated. So we felt like whoever was on the negotiating committee for the board, and right now we know that's Maury and Wayne. Wayne, as is transitioning off, you can become a community member on there. But that those would tie together.
No problem.
Yeah. So
Is that a yes?
that building, that committee's gonna meet a lot. So Maury, I don't want you feeling like we left you out, but we only put you on this committee because it's a pretty good commitment. And then whoever is the other person on the negotiating committee after that, well, assuming that Maury stays on it, I guess I shouldn't be so bold as to do that, but I know you have expressed interest in staying. So, whoever is going to be on the negotiating committee going forward, we felt like was a good pairing of people on there. Central Facilities Committee, we were kind of waiting to see how some of these phasing decisions came out. We were going to ask for some input from you on that one as well. That'll be another large committee. Alternative Education Committee, chaired by Jason Spring. We did not have a board member on there because we were waiting to see if somebody was wanting to nominate themselves for that one. Same as,
Maybe some.
well, hold on, we're gonna go there. And then vocational ed, same thing. And then staff realignment, once again, that will be more negotiated stuff, so that'll be more the negotiating committee. And then logistics is more managers, just talking about transportation boundaries, skyward internet, physical moves, so on and so forth. So, going back to the first page. Some of these committees have long timelines, some of them have really aggressive timelines. Now understand that these are the result of conversations with the architect. As you can see, the first one, K-4 special scheduling. Today is January 14th, and we are very well aware that this is 32 days from now, but February 15th, we'd like that work done. Okay? So that one needs to get started in earnest and needs to meet quickly and get its work done, because once we decide what we recommend the special schedule to be, that will impact how we orient the buildings. So some of these decisions need to be made kind of in a particular order. So then you can see a very specific schedule there, so you can understand a little bit. On the Steel King Facilities Committee, once again, these are after speaking to the architect. If we take that work on the 15th of February, that recommendation, and we go to, well, one, we'll go through a board meeting, and you'll have a full chance to vet that out. And then we'll go to the 25th of February. Meeting one for that next committee would be a plan review, assuming that you guys are okay with the plan. And then March 4th, building feedback with Leggett and Russell, so we get feedback from the staff members that are in those buildings, or in all the buildings, because this will impact all elementary teachers. March 11th, plan revisions from Leggett and Russell. March 18th, final comments to Leggett and Russell. And then April 8th, board approval. Okay? So then King, you can see the same thing. And then similarly, on 5-6 Facilities Committee, you see that's got some quick timelines as well. And then others are going to take much longer. I know this is a lot to digest, and I would have loved to have gotten this out to you sooner, but we were the victim of circumstance with winter break and things of that sort, and trying to get all the feedback and get all that information from architects. And, this was the fastest we could get it to you. So, what I would ask you to do is, one, look at this and see, are there any committees that you think we need that we did not name? Or conversely, is there a committee you see on here that you think we don't need?
Do you think perhaps we need a committee that discusses how athletics and extracurriculars will be impacted by? I don't know if that's necessary or at this point.
That's a good question. I was wondering if that was going to be part of the 7 through 12.
That's kind of part of logistics. Athletics was listed under that.
Really?
Well, we could separate that out, special, and have its own standalone athletics logistics. Yeah, because it's.
I think it's important to get input from the coaches,
absolutely,
and the program supervisors. Yeah. You know how they're going to be impacted.
I would wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. So we'll just call it athletics logistics.
Or it could be athletics and co-curriculars or.
Yeah, because I'd also like to include
programs.
Theater and band, and you know we have so many programs that fight for space when they're practicing.
Right, for practice, right, yeah, I think, and so, the reason I just made that statement is I want to make sure the 7-12 facilities, we know that we'll have to have an athletics and fine arts and, those folks will need to be on that committee as well, so. in looking at these, and I'm not saying we should do it, just so you understood. We know that we need that input. So this would be more about, this athletics and co-curriculum would be more about scheduling practices and access to space. Is that fair? So, all right, we will amend that and try to put together some thoughts on that, and we'll send that out to you to review, and we can look at that for next month for finalization of that. Other thoughts?
Other thoughts? Well, I think the first one is the shortest time frame.
Yeah.
Your K-4 specials. I guess our assumption is that we'll have art, music, PE moving forward forever. No thought about doing something differently as we do different buildings.
That'll be one of the guiding questions for that committee to talk about.
Right, this is a chance to rethink that. I mean, for anybody in the audience or anybody listening, we're not talking about reducing opportunities for kids, but we want to look at how we identify what those are, you know, whether it be foreign language or
STEM.
technology, robotics, you know, yeah, yes. So that is one of the guiding questions that we need to have on there.
Okay, as
And
long
we
as
know
that's
that,
still being,
yeah.
and we're not locked into the three things that are so listed.
Well, and really, at this point, we're talking about orienting space. So if we don't want to create any space that's dedicated and it can only be for one thing ever. So, you know, we know in the future some of these spaces may be repurposed, but we want to talk about for now, how would these work, and if we want to put in other opportunities and how those would fit with these current existing programs already. Does that make sense?
As long as it's being discussed.
Yeah,
in a serious
absolutely.
manner.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're not expecting that a physical schedule be created, but we just need to know the parameters. Like, for instance, there's been a lot of conversation about bringing PE back every day as part of school code. If you recall, a couple of years ago, we had that debate. We were going to have to implement PE every day, and then they came back and they repealed that so that you only had to do it 3 days a week. So there was a bill, I believe last year, that was presented to bring PE back 5 days a week. I think we'll continue to see that. So then the question is, do we just want to go ahead and plan for the fact that at some point, you know, there's probably going to be a requirement, and considering that we'll have the space, we'll be able to do that. We won't be able to waiver out. So, you know, do we go in with that kind of mind frame that we're going to have PE every day, but then how does that affect other specials and other offerings and then impact the overall core curriculum? That's kind of what that committee will vet out, but actually developing a physical schedule for each building will not be what they're doing. So, you know, it is a very short window, but they basically need to come back with recommendations about what they want in the K-4 specials and for how long each week we would be offering those, and then we can handle the facilities issues after that.
Right. Other thoughts? I know you're drinking out of a fire hose here, but any thoughts about, once again, let's narrow that down. Are there any committee that you would like to see added apart from athletics and co-curricular?
And just as a note, you may wonder why we, you know, why the K-4 curriculum or the scheduling, special scheduling committee had to come before we had the facilities question answered, but we're not following that same timeline for Lombard, because those spaces, there's really not a question as to how those spaces are going to be used, if we need an additional music room and things of that nature. So we have a little bit more time to work on the actual physical blueprint, the actual physical schedule without that being dependent on the blueprint.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a switch.
And if you, once again, if you want to be on one of these committees as a standing member, please let me know. No problem, we'll just add you on. Some people's schedules we know are a little bit more challenging than others, so we didn't necessarily put, we were wondering about some people's schedules, so we didn't want to do that. And then, like for instance, I put there's a subcommittee for the 712 steering committee, and that, we put you on that because, you know, sometimes your schedule can be challenged, and that one, we felt like enough of a commitment that we didn't want to overcommit you. So the only ones that are really emergency, kind of really need to get going right now are the first two, and then the fourth one.
Now,
Fifth one, sorry.
given these timeframes, are we still looking at doing any work this summer?
That is the reason we are going as quickly as we are, so that we can do work this summer.
And it looks like you'd like to work at Lombard.
Lombard, King, and Steele.
King.
King will be later
Doesn't even
on.
have till June under this time frame.
It would be in the early fall.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess one of my questions, you have the Leggett and Russell people here for 3 listening and planning sessions. Is that enough? Should the principals be doing something with the staff prior to that?
Well, the idea with a lot of these committees is to then, you know, there will be representatives from the staff that would then go out into their building. So I just happen to be looking at Hong, so you're here, Hong, so I'm gonna use you as an example. So as a 4th grade teacher at Silas Willard, if we wanted 4th grade input and Hong was the representative on there, it would be her job to go back to Silas Willard, get that feedback from her staff to then come to the next meeting to provide that collective feedback. Because we want as much input as possible, but it's too unwieldy to have every staff member there. So we want to have representation with their responsibility to go back and get the feedback to provide the input.
I just want to make it clear, we aren't doing no work at Silas Willard.
Correct,
Okay,
but
so-
there will be teachers, but the scheduling committee would
Right.
impact Silas Willard, and 5th grade teachers currently at Silas Willard, if under this plan, would be going someplace else. So, you know, it is going to impact the staff there, but we are not changing the building.
Good, okay. Just the 3 sessions, I don't know, because, and they're a week apart. Is that enough processing time to come out, you know, in my mind, once again, we're only doing this once, and I want to make sure that the staff gets enough opportunity to think these through, because many times, the first time they meet, some of the questions be the first time they'd be thinking of some of the things thrown at them.
Steel is the easier of the two. So there's a longer timeline for King because the addition that's going on to Steel is pretty prescriptive. And we already know what some of the new rooms are going to become because right now, for instance, the life skills rooms at Steel need some revisions. So it would make sense instead of retrofitting the rooms that we have to put those into the new addition. So there will be more lengthy conversations with those life skills staff, with Deb Craddy and special ed, but a lot of those are going to become special ed rooms that really doesn't affect the general population in terms of changes. Steel doesn't have the magnitude of changes that King does. So that's why they decided to go with that one first. You know, we really don't have a lot of options into where to put the addition at Steel. It's going to be kind of where it's going to be. So the architects felt like this was the timeline that they worked in other districts with, and
Well, and at the end of the day, the timelines that we are putting out there are, in essence, artificial timelines. Because the stress that we're under is, as we've talked about before at open meetings and up here and wherever, is the longer we wait, the more expensive the projects get just because of the inflationary factor. So we need to make decisions as quickly and as well as we can. So what I would tell you is these are what the architects believe we need to do to get work done or started as soon as possible, okay? If we aren't comfortable with those decisions, we can always wait longer, just knowing that it's going to cost more money. I mean, I'm not saying that's a good thing or bad thing, I'm just saying it's a thing. So we're trying to make good decisions quickly. We're trying to get a lot of input. We're trying to get as much quality input as we can. And are we concerned that these are quick timelines? Of course we are. We've been concerned since we started talking about this, as we all
We also need to talk about all the constraints of the bonds we're about to sell.
Right.
Because that money has to be expended within 36 months of when they're approved.
Right.
So if we delay these timelines, then we could be in jeopardy of the timelines for our bonds.
It was not my intent to talk about delaying. My
No,
intent was
no.
to make sure that that everyone has enough time to process these really major changes we're talking about in the facilities.
Right.
Well, and we could have meeting, between meeting 2 and meeting 3, you could have, I mean, we only show a week there, but, you could have a couple meetings in there to try to get more discussion. But we're just trying to hit those timelines. I mean, you see between March 18th and April 8th, that's a decent amount of time, so it gives them enough time to come back with some renderings and some thoughts about what some of these things are gonna look like. There are fewer options at Steel, so we thought that was a good place to start. Because we don't have to have, there really isn't a lot of debate about where things are going, because there's about one place a lot of this can go. And then we'll learn a little bit on the process as we go to King. So, and then Lombard, we know where we're adding on, it's just how we're gonna do, how we're gonna deal with the space. And what we're gonna do with the parking lot, and how that's gonna, work with the pickup and the drop-off from the buses versus the cars. But, we've given the most time at the place where there's the most up in the air. We've given the least time where there's less debated.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If board members have requests about committees that they would like to be on, please email Dr. Asplund
Yep.
and let him know that.
And I will do everything I can to make sure that you're aware of every meeting date. So if you know there's only gonna be one other board member there and you wanna stop by, please, stop by. If there's 2 board members there, I will kindly ask you not to go. So we don't have to post these meetings. We don't wanna run afoul of the Open Meetings Act, so.
Well, and so the one thing that I will say is, once the committees are set and finalized, my hope is that people who are in attendance are being vocal, they're putting their ideas there, they're putting their concerns there, they're asking the questions, they're taking it back to their colleagues, so that we are gathering the information that we need. I'm not gonna lie and say that it's gonna be an easy process, but we want this to be a process where voices are heard. So while it may be a quick turnaround in some of the cases, I think it's just really important that whoever's on the committee shows up and really digs in, because it's a lot of work moving forward, and we do not want to make mistakes. We don't want to get it wrong.
We don't.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask a question about these? We have around town some of these little pictures. Is someone gonna go around and pick them up, since they're prior to the meetings?
Yeah, we should do that.
Even the one hanging out in the hall here talks about, scan this for the options, because there aren't options anymore.
All right, moving forward, next item is consider approval of amendment to professional services agreement. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Mrs. Ham?
So this is an amendment to our original professional services document that we had with Liggett Architecture, just to refine some of the original terms of the agreement.
This has been reviewed by
By Mr. Feeny, yes.
I meant to send you some questions, but I didn't get to it. Can I ask a few here? Would that be okay?
Sure.
I mean, there's nothing, it says to be decided like on the mechanical services. Do they provide, do we have say in that is, they choose their best person, and that's included in the fees that we're committing ourselves to, correct?
No,
That's multiple questions.
That's in addition to.
It's in addition to?
Right, so for instance, today I got a proposal for a kitchen consultant, and so that was in addition to the Leggett services.
Yeah, but how, I'm talking about like the mechanical
Right.
person. That's included, no?
No, that is in addition to.
That's in addition to the 6%?
Yes. So those are specific items, like the kitchen consultant, the mechanical engineer, all of those will be separately billed to us.
Which, all of those presumed fees, there's no way to know exactly. All those presumed fees were part of that dollar amount when, all in package. So if you look at the cost of construction on, all of those fees are presumed to be in there. So this isn't $52 million plus whatever we're paying them.
Right.
That's all part of, well, I just want to make sure everybody understands that. So that these are, they've done their best to try to assume what those costs would be. And we're going to try to get as best as possible a scope of work from them as we move forward so that you can see what that is. As we move down the road, we'll see more and more of those. You have the last page of that agreement, you have their hourly rate if they're doing work that they're doing right now. And then, all the blueprint work and things of that sort will be part of that 6%.
It is, because this is one section, compensation of reimbursable expenses. It sounds like we pay that in addition to what we're paying them.
Just the ones that are reimbursable.
Transportation isn't included when they drive down here? That's in addition to their fees?
Correct.
And they print blueprints for us and things of that nature. Those are in additional fees, which is customary for the industry.
I'm shocked that they charge us mileage. I really am. It's customary, sure, but it's still shocking. 'Cause that's a lot of money. Are any of them in the audience today?
Nope.
No. It's okay, they can stream my comments. It seems like nickel and dime, it really does.
Did you have additional questions, or does any other board member have questions? Okay. All right, if there are no questions, then Allison?
Lyon,
Yes.
Pickrell,
Aye.
Sherby,
Aye.
Statham, Banks,
Aye.
Cervantes,
Aye.
Glasnovich.
Aye.
Okay, next, consider approval of letter of intent with Russell Construction. Do I have a motion?
So, okay,
So moved.
second.
Okay, questions regarding, well, Mrs. Gamble?
So this is a letter of intent for us to use Russell Construction as our construction management company for these projects. We worked with Russell now going on about 7-8 years since the Lombard and Steel renovations, and have had an excellent track record with them managing our projects. The one thing that I will say about Russell is that since I've been with the district nearly 4 years, even though possibly warranties have expired and their contractual commitment to us has expired, whenever we have an issue with one of our buildings and pick up the phone, Russell Construction is there. So I would anticipate that we would have that same level of high-quality service with them, and would recommend that the board approve this letter of intent to use their services moving forward.
Questions?
They would provide a separate on-site manager for every production? They wouldn't share between projects, or
They're
what's their
probably going,
commitment to us?
they're gonna probably do this a little differently. So there's going to be a senior project manager. Actually, he was on our weekly conference call today, and he's gonna be coming down in the next week to meet with John and I. So he'll oversee, the project as a whole. And then there will be individual site managers that may be shared, just because of the scope of the work, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Allison?
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye.
Glasnovich? Lyon?
Yes.
Okay, next we have consider approval of resolution providing for the issue of approximately $22,635,000 life safety bonds, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on such bonds, and authorizing the execution of bond purchase agreement with Stifel, Nicholas and Company Incorporated in connection with the sale of such bonds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All right, Mrs. Ham.
Okay, so these are the health, life, safety bonds that we have been discussing. We had to split the issue out. So we had originally been talking about 40.5 million. We had to split the issue out just because of where we're at in the approval process with ISB, in terms of having 22,635,000 of health, life, safety amendments currently approved. The other approximately 17 million are those health, life, safety amendments for part of the building replacement that the architects are currently working with ISB on getting that approval. So we had to split the issue so that we could have approved tonight those in 2 different phases. We went out and sold the 22.6 million this morning. And then once we get the approval from ISB, then we'll go out and sell the remaining 17 million. We cannot sell health, life, safety bonds before we have the building replacement approval from ISB. But we wanted to go ahead and get the approval for each, and once we get that, then we'll go out and sell the remaining 17 million.
So we sold them today?
We sold, yes.
And what interest rate?
4 point, oh, Kevin, go ahead.
I'll just clarify the numbers just a little bit, because when the board action resolution goes out, and you notice it says approximately, because the sale hasn't occurred yet. So the sale did occur today.
Right.
And so the amount you're actually authorizing is $20,770,000. You will be paid a purchase price of $23,410,000. That's the amount of the approvals that already are in hand for the total $40.5 million that you're trying to issue. These you already have from ISB, so you're getting all those that you have approvals for now. Okay? Why are you getting paid more than you're issuing? Because of the interest rate the buyers want on the bond, the coupon rate they want. Not the yield they're getting, but the coupon rate they want. Because buyers today think interest rates long-term are going up, they want a higher coupon rate than their yield because they want some protection from possible future interest rate increases in terms of the price of their bonds are marked to market every time when they have to mark to market their bond portfolios. So again, the all-in total interest cost was 4.34%. The average coupon was 5.285%. So again, you can kind of see the difference there is where we're generating that premium that's coming into the district. So the district will receive $23,410,000 at closing, which is again the amount of the life safety approvals that you have on hand so far. The balance then will be issued in the second resolution that you're going to adopt later that will be sold when we have those approvals. So this will grant the authority to go ahead and complete that sale. We won't have to bring another resolution back to you once we have those approvals from you.
Kevin, can you tell the board and everybody here what the projections, when you gave the board projections on what the interest rate would be versus what it ended up being?
Yeah, I think we had used a projection of about 4.75%. So, while I was maybe hoping for a little bit better, rates have come down since November. So it ended up being a little bit better than what we had hoped. But again, it is kind of a nervous environment right now. Somebody asked me the question the other day about, does the fact that we're in Illinois make a difference? And I will tell you, yes, it makes a huge difference. If these bonds were going out with this rating in Iowa or Missouri, you'd probably have anywhere from 0.4 to 0.5% better interest rate. But just because you have the word Illinois in your name, your legal name, buyers are penalizing you. And there are buyers out there right now, large institutional buyers, that just simply are not adding any more Illinois risk to their portfolios. Large insurance companies have been historically big buyers of Illinois bonds, even Illinois insurance companies that are domiciled here. Big names are saying we won't buy any more Illinois bonds, period.
So the difference in interest rate should give us a couple of cents relief off the property tax rate, correct?
Right now, we estimate it'll be about 2 cents less, even, we've got kind of hopefully a high estimate in the next series. So maybe it'll be a little bit better than that, but right now we're estimating about 2 cents better than what we had back in November, I think, the last time we shared numbers with the board.
So that'll be a benefit to the taxpayer.
Absolutely.
Any other questions? Allison?
Sherby?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye.
Glasnovich?
Aye.
Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye. Okay. Next, do I have a motion to consider approval of resolution providing for the issue of approximately 17,040,000 life safety bonds for the life safety replacement projects related to Churchill Junior High, Gale, Nielsen Elementary, and Rose Cove and Welch School buildings, providing for the levy of a direct annual tax sufficient to pay the principal and interest on such bonds, and authorize the execution of a bond purchase agreement with Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated in connection with the sale of such bonds.
So moved.
Second.
So because we're acting on this today, you're assuming we'll get approval before the next board meeting then?
We're hoping to.
Any other questions? Okay. Allison?
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye.
Glasnovich?
Aye.
Lyon? Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Next, consider approval of band uniform bid. Mrs. Ham.
Okay, you will.
Oh, wait, sorry, I need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, now Mrs. Ham.
Okay, so as some of you may know, we have been saving for quite some time for the replacement of our band uniforms. I believe our current uniforms are 26 years old. Is that correct? Which I think they look pretty good for being 26 years old and have held up really well. But this is something that the district has been contributing to, that the band boosters have been saving for. And we had approximately $90,000 in a Q account, which is a reserved account that we keep that does not roll over into general funds at the end of each year, set aside specifically for band uniforms. So as you can see, Allison, can you click on the band uniforms? We actually have a picture of the new uniforms, once the computer wants to cooperate. Mr. Empey has done a great job with getting renderings, soliciting feedback from the students and from other stakeholders on what we'd like to see in the future. The first picture is actually what the band uniforms will look like for the general population of the band. And then I think the next picture is for our drum majors, which will be in all white.
Didn't they just get new uniforms this year, the drum majors? Who was that?
No.
No, the color guard.
Color guard got some
What's
new
the difference?
items.
Oh, drum majors are the leaders, okay.
There you go.
Right. Correct. So we have a total bid.
There are three in here. Which one are you accepting? Are we supposed to accept? There's a
Um,
78, an 80, and an 83.
I believe it is, hold on. Hold down. It's the 82, 9, 11, 15. Is that correct, Mr. Empey?
No, it's 80, 627, so the original bid that I sent you all had a couple of different options on there. And then I sent you an updated proposal that had, what was specifically to this uniform here.
Oh,
Yeah, which came to 80,627.
yeah, we have.
Okay,
It's
yes,
that
that's the one.
I couldn't tell which one you
What's the
were
difference between the
looking for.
78,000 and the 80,000 one?
Oh, that's $2,000.
I'm not looking exactly at that proposal, but we were looking at the helmets that we've had for the past couple of uniforms. And then we looked at this hat as well. I also think that there was a sash on there that we talked about.
And that was all part of the $82,000 one.
Yeah, yes.
Wasn't there an emblem a streak emblem.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the third quote. Yeah, so we're talking about the middle, the 80,000, which we have above that in the savings account.
Will they get us the uniforms before next season, or?
It's a 180-day turnaround, so once we make the order, it's like 180 days, so right around end of August, those will come in. Yeah.
I have to say, I just got lost in the descriptions. I'm looking at the minute detail about what kind of thread is used, and I thought, oh my goodness, I'm glad I'm not making these uniforms.
Mr. MP showed me one in his office, and they are very nice. And DeMolin is a very good company, they're reputable.
That's who our current uniforms are through, is DeMolin, so.
Based on their list of other schools, does anyone else sell uniforms in Illinois?
Not in Illinois, well, they're in Indiana, but, yeah, there's a few companies, yeah. This is the big, from my experience, this is the biggest one. Most
Yeah,
reputable.
well, I think with this uniform here, I went through about 27 different designs before we kind of settled on what you're looking at here. So, you know, we didn't just open the catalog and say, I want that one. So we've gone through a process to get there.
You've worked hard on this, thank you. What do the students think of it?
They love it. I was worried because the helmets have been, you know, a big part of the uniform for so many years. And so they were reluctant initially, and then once I actually showed them the uniform, I had them vote in the Wind Symphony, and they all loved it, so they're excited.
Any other questions? Board members are clear which bid we're voting on?
It's actually on page 39 is that bid.
What are you gonna do with all the old helmets?
Well, that's going to be the next thing we look at. So I've done this before. DeMolin actually takes the old uniforms and they make bags, they make pillows, and then they resell them. Like if we wanted to do a fundraiser, that would be something I'd have to come talk to you all about, of course. And then we could also maybe sell it to alumni.
I was just gonna think, I think you'd sell out those helmets
Yeah, quickly.
before you got all the emails out to alumni.
Right.
So were these the uniforms we
Oh,
used
they can't be
in
gone like that.
94, 95?
Correct.
So I know a couple drum majorettes that actually then went from GHS to U of I and
Yeah.
continued their band career that would probably be interested in that. No, well, I looked at her because I heard her say, yeah.
I was a drum major, but yes.
I'm thinking
You're thinking of
Victoria
Amanda?
Parks, Vicki Parks and
Yeah, and I'm thinking about Amanda.
Stephanie Adams. Yeah. Sorry, showing my age there.
It's not that long ago.
All right. Any other questions? Allison?
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye.
Glasovich? Aye. Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherpy?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Okay. Next. Enrollment report. Does anybody have any questions regarding the enrollment report?
Thank you for including the children sent off to school.
Okay, if there's no questions, moving on to focus area number 3, responding to the changing needs of our community. First, consider approval of the transportation bid. Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Mrs. Ham?
Okay, as you can see, you have a memo in here from Mrs. Earp regarding our transportation bid process. We looked at doing some things differently this time. We wanted to see if there was any value to the district of leasing our own buses with leasing the drivers from various transportation companies. And unfortunately, when we took a look at that, it was not a feasible option. So we're looking at going back with the traditional 3-year contract with First Student, who won the bid process. We're looking at a 7.59% increase next year on our transportation contract with 3% increases on the subsequent 2 years. So we just couldn't make the numbers work with leasing our own buses and trying to rearrange things a little bit differently. So we're recommending the traditional contract, again, with First Student.
There was discussion, if we had our own buses, to have them be propane fueled. Is there any interest on the part of First Student to do that?
To do propane buses?
Uh-huh.
That's something that we did not discuss with them.
Is there any, since the contract's out here, how often the provision of replacement buses stays the same?
Correct.
Yes.
Is there any change in the technology they offer in terms of monitoring buses, or it's the same we have now, or?
It's the same we have now.
enhancement?
It'll
No
be the
enhancements.
same security systems that we have.
Are we happy with the degree of technology we have with the buses currently? Because you go to the convention, everyone has these new and best things their buses should have, and I don't know what our buses have relative to what they're saying is best and brightest.
I don't know. We have First Student folks here that.
We haven't
can answer
answered that. We actually have First View that's part of our bid. That's our Where's the Bus app that'll be open up to not only the parents, but also district dashboard. So it gives you some better insight into what's going on the road. So that is a key update. Our normal child check system that we have that's comes standard with the, as well as GPS. So you've got a lot of the cutting edge type of technology, but the biggest thing is the First View that'll be part of it.
So we, a parent can look and see their child's buses?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that an app or?
Yeah, that's through our own system there inside.
So if they want to meet the bus, they can see if it's 2 blocks away.
Well, and a big thing too is on your rural routes, it'll give you, hey, you're 5 minutes out or X amount of miles out. So that way they're not standing out by the road. That's going to be a big technology change. And I think the biggest thing too is the district dashboard from the administration as well as the school side. They have a visibility of where the buses are, even down from, district-wide, school-wide, all the way down to the route and stop, so.
Push notification to parents as well on a day like this morning, and you've got weather, the buses are running late, we can let parents know specifically of the bus, how long behind the bus route is, so they don't stand out there at the normal time.
Yeah, will these buses have GPS on them so that the drivers know where they're going?
Not that, no, unfortunately, that's,
Because I know that's been some concerns when we contract out for taking coaches and teams out of the area and knowing exactly what field or the best way to get to the schools are.
On the piece you talked about, parents would, so when we register parents, does that tie into the Skyward system then, or it's a separate application?
Separate application.
So we would transfer the data on our transported children to your facility, and then you would contact them directly?
Through our current routing software, we already have that information.
Okay.
So the parents can sign up specifically for their children, so it's a secure app, so not every parent can have access to every bus. Specific parents have access to their bus, and based on that information, they sign up for it. And it's not a messaging system, it works through the app, so it doesn't take up data any more than an application does.
Thank you. I guess we have the best.
We like to fix it.
Any other questions? Allison?
Cervantes.
Aye.
Glasnovich. Aye. Lyon.
Yes.
Pickrell.
Aye.
Sherpy.
Aye.
Statham.
Aye.
Banks.
Aye. Okay, next, consider approval of baseball summer trip request. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
He's supervising the game, so
Yeah.
I'll take that. Yeah, we had to reschedule the Limestone basketball game for tonight, so that's why we have some administrators missing too, but including Mr. Matthews. So these are the trips that you see. I believe there's 5 trips are similar to the trips they took last year. And since they are either overnight or out of state or both, we need to get further approval from that, but it should not cost the district money. It's just, but it is part of a district organization, so. You see the trips there, there's one to Omaha, Champaign, St. Louis, Decatur, and then back to Champaign again.
Any questions regarding the baseball trip request?
Looks like Coach Pickerel's doing a lot of off-season work.
Yeah, well,
So that's exciting.
yes, yeah, no, he's always working at it, that's for sure.
Okay. Allison?
Glastovich?
Yes.
Lyon? Pickrell? Sherpy?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye. On a side note, Dr. Esplin, if we do not have a policy like that outline, is it just athletics right now that we're requesting? We're requesting from a lot of people.
No, there's, and I don't have the policy number in front of me, but it is a board policy that you have to,
That's
if
what I-
you're overnight or out of state, whoever it is needs to seek permission.
Okay,
And there was a question from a board member about it appears one went without getting permission, and I
this
apologize.
last weekend.
Yeah, that should not have happened, so.
I just wanted to make sure.
What, no, and it should be, yeah, that just,
Playfield for sports or
it just
theater
didn't, yes,
or-
no, the theater trip should have gotten permission, and somehow that didn't. So, Mr. Houston, since you're sitting there,
Yes. Theater went
Mr.
to-
Rob,
it was a weekend long
Whoever.
thing, they were gone.
yeah, they went to
multiple
Theater
nights,
Fest. I
right?
mean, yeah, it's something they go to every year at ISU, but that needed to get permission, and somehow that didn't make it through, so
Thank you.
I apologize.
Okay. Next, we have calendar changes for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Asplin.
Thank you. So tonight, I'm not asking you to vote on anything. We had our first committee meeting today, and I just wanted to make you aware of the conversation. So it was, in my estimation, an excellent meeting. I'm so thankful our staff came and provided input that was very productive. And next year, the state, at this moment, I'm going to explain myself in a second. At this moment, the current law from the state is that you will now have 176 days of student attendance. Okay? For many, many years, it's been 174 with 2 days of parent-teacher institute, 2 days of parent-teacher conferences, 4 teachers institute, 5 emergency days. That's been the standard for many, many years. Well, now the law has changed, and you need to have 2 more days of student attendance, and that's great. They gave us that guidance in November. It wasn't so great. And you can now have, you can change how you do Teachers Institute, or you'd only have to have 2, parent-teacher conferences, or you only have to have 2 Teachers Institutes. So we're looking at our different options here. What I have talked to the committee about, and we had some really great discussion about, is next year, the goal needs to be to get us out of school as soon as we can that is reasonable. Because we want as big a window as possible in the summer to work on our construction projects without students in attendance. So the idea would be the summer of 2020, we would get out a little earlier than we're used to. In the fall of 2020, we would start a little bit later than we're used to. Because we're trying to have as big a window there for construction without students around, bless you. And the reason I said right now the law is 176 days of student attendance, that is being contested by some folks down in Springfield. So because we got notification in November that there was a change, nothing surprises me anymore. I could see in May them going, yeah, never mind, it's back to 174. So at this moment, we're going under the assumption that there's 176 days of student attendance. And at this moment, the committee is going to go back and get feedback from their buildings about what they feel. We will see. Next month, we would be asking you to look at that calendar. I think we're all going to have to deal with perhaps maybe starting a little earlier than we want to because we're trying to get done a little earlier. Maybe not having a spring break. Some of those things that people have kind of really gotten used to or don't like or whatever. We're looking at a 1-year sacrifice from everybody just because we need to have that time to get as much, or really 2 years, or get as much of that construction done as possible so that after that we can just everybody will have air conditioning, we don't have to worry about heat days, all that other stuff, you know. We're talking about short-term sacrifice for long-term gain. So I was really, really pleased with the conversation today in the committee. A lot of people had a lot of great ideas, good thoughts. And so we will come back next month with a very strong recommendation for a particular calendar.
When the conversations begin about that long summer, I would encourage whoever's sitting on that committee to think about the ways in which our families that benefit from school days, how we can work with community partners to make sure all that is in place.
That is an excellent point, yes. And it will also impact things like summer school too. So, you know, we would like to just have summer school at Silas Willard because it's not getting anything done to it. So, you know.
Are we doing summer school this year?
We are.
Except for I saw we hired people for steel, that's extended the school year.
It's posted also for regular ed summer school as well.
Right, we've posted them where, you know,
We're posted at Silas as well.
we have summer school provisions for all grade
Did you
levels.
talk about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we put that back in the title grant, so yeah, we're excited about that. So next month, and hopefully prior to then, I can give you a little longer to digest it, but that's where we are right now. So very, very pleased with the progress we made today.
Any other questions? Okay, next, consider approval of press policies. This is actually a first reading. So are there any questions, or would members Pickrell or Banks like to provide any background on the policies for us to consider when we need to approve it next month?
We were given them a few weeks ago to review and have done so, and emailed Dr. Asplin our questions, and he's gotten back to us, so I think we're good.
All right, I had a few questions, but I can email Dr. Asplund. They might be similar to the questions that you all had when you took the policies. So I think, just so that people are aware, I just want to have a conversation about policy 4:170, the new safety requirement for active shooter training. I just had a question about how we help prepare / warn students and their families if that's going to be happening. Like we're not doing this as a surprise, right?
No.
Yeah, okay. And just to kind of talk through with some, if students have concerns after that drill, to keep in mind that not all of our students were born and raised in Galesburg. And even those that have may have been around gun violence before. And so we want to be mindful of what an active shooter training drill might bring up for some of our students. So keeping that in mind. 5:30, that was more about like background checks. And the change explicitly says the board president makes sure checks are complete, so I just had some questions about that.
Well,
in the title that I currently hold.
No, what that says is that my check is, so if you hire a superintendent,
right,
you are responsible. In all other cases, I am responsible.
Right. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm responsible.
Just make sure I don't leave.
Okay.
And then you don't have to worry about it, because it's just if you hire a new superintendent.
Well, that's a good plan. And so we're not going anywhere until April at least.
Yeah, no, you're good. No, but that's what it says. So it's just saying that I am responsible for everybody, but they have to have a provision in there, what about me?
Okay.
So if you're hiring a new superintendent, you are, but really it's the search firm. I mean, it would be the school board association.
That's what I thought.
I mean, but they can't name themselves. So it would be whoever the search firm is.
And I don't know what this means. I was shorthanding. Policy 5:220. My only question is, how does this affect current policy? So I don't, which one is that?
Yeah, I don't remember them, so I look at them.
5.
220. No, go up. Yeah.
3 digits.
Oh, you went past it.
Really?
There it is, substitute teachers.
Oh, yeah. So the new one, it looks like it's differentiating between short-term and long-term. Do we already have that in our policy?
Yes.
Okay.
Looking to
I was
see.
doing this late last night, so.
There's a new law about short-term substitute teaching licenses. So we have to get an agreement with the GEA on that. We've not done that yet.
Okay.
We're working through the ROE to do that. That's the biggest difference on this, is because the state law has talked about people that aren't college graduates that are able to be short-term sub-teachers. And so that policy specifies that change. So any law change like that necessitates a policy change. So there really isn't much in here that's impacting anything unless we go through that, and then you'd have to vote on that separately at a different, we haven't gotten there yet.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
I had some.
Okay, Member Lexovich.
Okay, under safety, 4:170, it's on page 9. It's talking about the automatic defibrillators, that there's somebody, they're gonna be in all the phys eds facilities, right?
Yes.
And that there's always somebody there that knows how to operate them. But do we have multiple people in the area and multiple people in the buildings that can operate them? And in the case that, I know in the past, like at the high school, the nurse, but there's, in the case that the nurse wasn't there, would there be, coaches in the high school? I would presume some other people would be able to do that. But what about the other buildings?
Yeah, I don't want to speak out of turn because I start to get confused between which district. So, Matt Jacobson? Matt?
He's got his earphones on.
He's asleep. I got Matt.
I'm sorry, I'm 5 seconds delay on the license.
Oh,
That's a good idea.
Yes, it's just going into their third verse, right? Is it part of our Ed Leaders Network, the defibrillator training?
No, it's not.
It is not, okay. Okay.
It is part of CPR training.
But
It is part of
they all go
CPR
through
training.
CPR training, right?
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
The principals all do, don't they?
Yeah, we have administrators that are all trained in that, and our coaches. But in a question about an elementary school, if an administrator is gone, that would be something we would need.
Right, I just wanted to make sure that there were, we talk about cross-training, there were multiple
Right.
people in the case of using that, because I don't know that
Right.
just a novice would automatically.
As
know
it
how.
currently stands right now, the nurse and the administrator in every building would. And then in the high school, the junior high, we have a lot of coaches.
A lot of
We have
coaches,
more.
so that I wasn't as
But at the
concerned
grade
about those.
schools, I would say, yeah, we need to make sure that there's a couple other folks, although the odds of that would be so remote, we should be good. But
Very,
we just need to
very
make sure.
but, okay. The other one, I don't remember which one this was, but it's about this, maybe it's in the same area, it's about safety. Where is the internet safety being taught? Specifically, I'm wondering in the elementary grades. I know they used to do it through the librarians, but we don't have the librarians any longer, for the most part.
That's a great question, I'd have to look and see on the.
Because they use that as part of their National Librarian Association.
So I can speak to Silas Willard. We've used the library paras. And so there's an already created curriculum.
Right.
And Mr. Jacobson did a great job of hosting a lot of links and videos that talk about internet safety. And so as they can come in on their library times, play those videos. So that's something that's already available to all the schools.
Since the law was passed in 2010, I maintained a curriculum page on the website. We've asked that all teachers integrate that into their instructional activities, so we're not just doing research solely through libraries and books, but we're also researching appropriately through daily activities. I've asked principals to spot check and make sure that those activities are being delivered annually. Every student in grades 3 through 12 is required by law to engage in internet safety activities of some sort.
All right, the last one was on suicide awareness and depression awareness. I believe that was it. And I think, I'm not sure that that's 7.
It's 7 something.
7 something, 7290. I'm, based upon my background, I'm really concerned about how that is being integrated into, you know, that I realize that's a curriculum area also, but it's also a matter of personnel, that I have a concern that we have, especially in the younger grades. I mean, nationally, there are more students all the time on the younger grades, and that kind of goes along with the internet and social awareness, safety, social media safety, and so forth. So I just want to make sure that we're, you know, making sure that we're getting to all those areas.
Well, and if you'd like, we can put together a matrix to see how we do that in those buildings.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see, because for example, you know, we've got outreach workers that are in some of the buildings, but then some buildings are having to share, and, you know, I think we're short-staffed in that area, and making sure that as we move forward and where the schools are changing, the facilities are changing, and the buildings are changing, and the grades are possibly changing, we make sure that we've got enough support staff personnel that are well-versed in those areas, that we're going to cover that, because I don't think that's a problem that's going to, and we just need to be careful.
And I will tell you that ISBE has been working to, and I haven't seen a lot of evidence of it yet, but there was a recent law that was passed, and it was Public Act 100-903. It's effective starting just January 1st, that requires all of us to be trained on the warning signs.
On the warning signs. I just wanted to
Well, it specifically mentions K through 12, but.
Yeah. Well, and that's a lot of my concern, you know, you don't necessarily think about, you know, 13-year-olds,
Right.
but there are more and more issues, and one statistic that I saw was that it's the second leading cause of death for ages 12 to 18
Yeah.
in the United States, so something we need to continue to be aware of.
Yeah, so we will put, well, once we know where those trainings are, that's something we'll make sure we have to get everybody trained on. That's something that just got put into effect 13 days ago.
Well, I will say that over in my place of employment, Bridgeway has come in and done a wonderful program for those of us working in high traffic areas with students, like that are in contact with students all the time, in the student development area, mental health first aid. It's a wonderful program. It is a day-long program, but they go through so much information and help you understand how to have those conversations. And it's now being offered to interested faculty. So even if you never have to have that conversation, it's great to have the resources and understand signs and behaviors and et cetera. So
There's almost always signs.
right. So I think it would be extremely beneficial to look into that, in my opinion, district-wide. I leave that to you.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind making a couple comments. I don't know if it's necessarily policy related, but as for the AEDs, I think we need to improve their accessibility and visibility. In many of the facilities, I know the AEDs might be behind the secretary's desk or in the nurse's office, and I suspect that when someone's having a heart attack, it's probably not behind the secretary's desk or in the nurse's office. It might be better to put it where.
Put a sign up requesting that they do.
Or having really bright visible signs so you can look down a hallway and see from any direction where the AEDs are at.
Yeah.
And I know like at the high school, we don't necessarily have them in all the athletic areas. And I think, even then, to run into the high school to get one, or to run into the field house to get one from
Tennis court.
the tennis courts.
Right.
I might be dead by the time the person gets there, And being an older male,
Thanks a
that
lot.
might be a selfish observation. Another thing, I know I've talked to you before about as far as internet safety and monitoring grade school usage of, and I guess it could probably be also for the upper levels. But it's difficult for teachers to monitor what their students are actually on. And I know that there's software programs, I think it's Hapara is one of them, that will project what sites they're on onto their smart board. So at a glance, the teacher can look and make sure that, somebody in the corner is not surfing an inappropriate site or, not paying attention.
Right.
I don't know, I just think that's something that we might want to consider as well.
Rob, can I add to that?
Yeah, yes.
We actually had Hannah Oriana present on the 30th. No, the 4th, excuse me. The 4th, and she actually had a platform where she could identify the places where the students were allowed to go to, and it kind of kept them within that frame, and so they were able to select from those options. So that might be another way to work through that.
And
then
certainly you guys would
completely
know
teacher
better than I do.
self-selected, yeah.
But I just think monitoring is a good way to have internet safety, is to simply visually observe what.
Yep.
And somebody just asked me recently about the software you're talking about.
Uh-huh.
And I guess, thank you for reminding me, because I was going to ask why we don't employ it.
We do.
Don't we have that
We
part?
We do.
And if you
Okay.
go to like 6th grade orientation, I was told as a parent.
So it
From the
is
teachers
up
that
on the
they-
smart board?
Yeah, Matt.
Yeah.
It is up?
We've had Hapara in place for grades 6 through 12 since we rolled out one-to-one.
How's that spelled?
H-A-P-A-R-A.
H-A-P-A-R-A. And it can, yes, it can be used for, website whack-a-mole, we call it. Teachers can bounce kids off of sites, focus kids toward sites. Hapara we can also give, for example, counselors access to emails and documents in Google Drive so they can monitor kids that we believe are at risk. Some of the software can also automatically flag emails. Now, this is a different software from Hapara. They can flag emails for kids who type phrases that would signal emotional concern, and we can follow up with that. We don't have that in place, but that's an extra cost add-on, so software.
Any other questions or input regarding policies? Okay, well, we will double check. Make sure you read through and make sure there's nothing that you think needs to be changed, because that needs to be given to Dr. Asplin prior to the next meeting, because we'll approve these next month. Okay, next, we're moving on to personnel. Consider approval of job descriptions. Dr. Asplin.
Thank you. I did have a couple of recommended changes that were grammatical and some logistical ones. So we are going to we're going to take out the reference to multiple superintendents on the director of special ed, since we took it off the Knox Warren. So, and then some greater clarity on the GHS position, especially north, and how we refer to offices. So, but other than that, are there any other? I didn't get it from the concern. And then we made that one change to the director of special ed, that administrative degree was preferred, not required.
Any other questions? I never got a motion.
So moved.
Second.
That was my bad, because I asked for input first.
Oh, God.
Any other questions? Allison?
Lyon?
Yes.
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Sherpy?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Probably
Cervantes?
get the ED there.
Aye.
Glasovich?
Aye.
Where is it?
Where is it, right?
Next, consider approval of the personnel report. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Allison?
Pickrell?
Aye.
Sherby?
Aye.
Statham?
Aye.
Banks?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye.
Glasovich?
Aye.
Lyon?
Next, grievance update. Do we have any updates?
We don't have any outstanding agreements, so all's good.
Okay, final portion of our meeting, comments by members of the board. I will start to my right, Member Glasnovich.
I have nothing.
Member Sherpy.
I only have one comment, and that's to my wife at home watching online. Happy anniversary.
Our dedication.
Look at this, happy anniversary.
Yep.
Is she really watching this?
Oh, yeah.
People really watch this?
One.
5 seconds later, so think about what you want to say.
Yes.
So now she's going home.
Yeah.
Member Pickrell.
No comment.
Member Banks.
No comment, no further comment.
Member Statham.
I have nothing further.
Member Lyon.
Well, I have an advertisement, if I may. Monday is a holiday, it's the Dr. King celebration in honor of his birth, which is, what day is today? Tomorrow. Tomorrow would be his 90th birthday, I believe. The Martin Luther King Celebration Committee does a breakfast on that day. This year, again, it's going to be at the First Lutheran Church at 7:30, and there are tickets available at the door. We hope a lot of people can make it there. I just have plenty of time right now. Thank you.
It's a wonderful event. On that note, I hope that our educators are taking some time to talk about MLK and talk about his works beyond I Have a Dream, because the man was definitely so much more than that one awesome speech, but there was a lot more to his legacy than just that one. I would also, I just want to take a moment because it kind of personal, but also congratulatory. Many people know that GHS has a bowling team. A bowling team.
It just started this year, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, because I'll tell you, there's a certain board member sits at this table who's held some records on that team for 25 years. And I'll tell you what, Chloe is coming after. She did. She's coming after my records.
As a freshman.
So one of these days, I'm going to have to meet Miss Chloe and shake her hand, because she took down my high 6 game, I think. I cannot remember. I can't remember if I held the 3 game or 6 game, because a few of my records were broken like 1 or 2 years after I held them. But my high game is still there. So
What's your high game?
my high game is a 263. So if
Holy
Miss-
total in your life.
Yeah,
Yes.
more than yeah.
So if Miss Chloe ever reaches that, I know she's only, that's what I have heard, right? So I look forward to
Tearing
the
it
day
You actually have.
where I get to take
unless
Chloe
you
to
weren't
lunch
here.
for breaking my record, huh?
I think you actually have met her unless you weren't here, because last spring when they won, remember she and Taya won
Oh,
something?
yes.
Remember they,
Oh,
so
yeah.
you actually have
So
met
I
her,
have
which
met
I
her.
realized.
Yeah.
So she was
Yeah.
right, okay,
Yeah.
wonderful. Well, I am, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to that day, but I saw that article in the newspaper, and I messaged Matt Wheaton, I'm like, that was a long record, 25 years, 25 years. Yeah, I'm aging myself, that's all right. All right, so congratulations to Chloe, that's wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. All right, any future agenda items from members of the board? No?
I'm curious how we're coming with some curricular things. I asked John about being updated next month on the high school schedule, to see what we're doing in terms of skinnies for next year.
Yeah.
Yep, we're
That is
working
a
on it.
presentation being
And,
prepared for next month.
Very good, so I'm looking forward to hearing that.
No blitz as requested.
Thank you. Don't spend your time. Time's too valuable.
Okay. There's no other agenda items. Our future meeting date, we will be back here Monday, February 11th at 7 p.m.
Thanks, Joe.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
We'll
Al?
celebrate.
Sherpy?
You can do all in favor.
All in favor?
Sure.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sit here, you can stay.
Be it.
Said that about the high school.
Oh.
Oh, we got it.
All right.
Trees are so beautiful this morning.
Gorgeous out.
Yeah.
It's gotten cold on us. Good to see you, sir. Good to see you too. That's a possibility, I guess.
I think it's gonna stay cold
On Sunday at
Thank you for the information. I wish your bid was lower though. 7.9. Are you catching up or something?